All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do it. This is John Ratte, a slim John Ratte,
Slimmer, yeah.
slimmer.
Yeah.
This is the way I'm going to call these things now. You're the hero of this story. So,
Oh
we've been.
my.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't before. That's part of the transition. We'll get into it later, but yeah, that's funny that you bring that up. I had recently framed it that way because there are times when you're either the hero or the villain in your own story. And
No, you're always the hero. You're always Rocky Balboa. You're never Drago. But that'll be interesting to get into that. So
right,
tell.
that happened. Like that's what was going on in my head
So
before. Like
so
that's what I.
so we've been talking about primarily weight loss for you for maybe a year and a half or so.
Yeah, it was August 2016 was when I was at my heaviest, which I think that was about 317 at that point.
Okay.
When you, me, and our friends from college were doing that hike, and I could barely get up the mountain. Today, I actually just weighed myself at 367, so that's 50 down so far.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
That's great.
thank you. I'm
So
proud of it.
a year and a half, you've come a long way.
Yeah, yeah, and there's been some bumps, but it's still going.
How
Yeah,
do
I
you
was
feel?
saying.
How do you feel when you say that you've lost 50 pounds in a year and a half?
Uh, Partly, there's a part of me that is like, it could have been better. Like I could be further along. Just because I had this like 3-4 month lapse towards the end of last year, and I was like, I go through these little cycles, and I'm starting to like kind of get over that a lot quicker. And I'm starting to just say, no, it's that's 50. That was I'm feeling really good about that. But yeah, it was. I was kicking myself a little bit, but I had to stop doing that so I could
So
get
hang
past the
on.
problem.
So you really do feel good about it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, especially looking in context. So it's the fact that I don't know if I was telling you this like via text earlier, but it was like I had this cycle before I kind of made that big decision a year and a half ago that I'm going to change the direction, which was I would get into little modes of I want to lose weight, and then I focus for a month and then lose focus, and then it would be about a year and a half before I get back to it.
So you would try for a short period of time, maybe a month or something, and then just stop.
Yeah, yeah, and then
And what would you
over
usually do in those times?
which times when I was focusing,
Yeah.
yeah, a bunch of different stuff. Try out different diets, start trying to work out. Hell, I even tried CrossFit until it started blowing out both my ankles. But I would try anything, but there was nothing that I would ever stick because I was trying to you know eat an entire elephant in one bite, basically. Like I was
Too
trying to
much.
take off. Yeah, and it would just get so discouraging and make one slip up, and then it was this nasty cycle that would turn into an even further slide.
So when
Um,
let's talk about that for a minute because I think that's common for a lot of people.
Very, yeah,
You said
yeah,
when you would have one slip up, like you would just so it sounds like you were trying to do too much at once, trying to do it all, major overhaul of your diet, dramatic exercise.
yeah.
And then you would do a slip up. What would a slip up be?
So that would be, you go out drinking with some buddies, and then it ends up, like a 3 a.m. bender with, a side of Taco Bell, and then you wake up the next day just going like, oh my god.
Mm.
And for the next, as my aging liver, kind of refuses to process alcohol like it used to, it would just turn into a whole week of recovery and then at that point you're just like, what's the point? And I would just, that would bleed into like a month of crappy eating and self-loathing and punishment almost.
I'm trying to think about it. I'm wondering what was kind of going on inside of you when these things happen. So you mentioned just a second ago you've gotten better. The slip ups still happen. They're not totally gone.
Yeah, I would call them controlled detonations, holidays, that kind of thing. They are, like controlled demolition. But what it is the cycle shortens. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go off, but it's I'm gonna focus on picking back up and not blaming myself and holding myself to to such a ridiculous standard. Going like, you know what? It's go enjoy yourself. You're gonna lose a little ground. Don't worry about that. That's fine. Like you don't have to have 900 consecutive days of weight loss. That's not how it works. And so it kind of helps keep you kind of engaged in the process to where the cycle is shortening.
So now you get back on that horse quicker, and like you're saying, and that's part of your success.
Yeah, it's to minimize the self-inflicted damage, which is to to focus on to basically lower the stakes a little bit in your own head.
Yeah.
If it's too high stakes, then it's like, oh, all right. Kind of the reason I was never any good at video games, I never could get into it because you'd start playing and then you die or something, and I'm like, screw it, I would just give up the game. Like I rage quit so easily.
Well, I think the reason you did that is because these guys we played with in college were so good that they would just kill you the second that your new guy was born and bond.
Yeah, and he was also playing, with his feet too. So that there's a
That's when I stopped playing video games too. I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. Like these guys are too good.
Wasn't hygienic, that's for sure. But yeah, it gets very discouraging because you want to be there already. Like that was the thing. It's like I want to be at the destination already. I get very impatient with myself. That's the other thing. Is to just say no. You're just keep tackling it. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Which was another thing I had to kind of refocus. Around the fall of last year, I started another slide. I got a little burnt out on the health focus. I think it was around the time we went to the Notre Dame Georgia game.
Yep.
It was when I started, and when I came back to Seattle, I had some other travel to do, and I went to Vegas for a conference. And by the time I got back, I couldn't refocus. I was just kind of in a lull.
Okay.
And that was when I also started to just kind of open up to the fact that sometimes I go through depression bouts. Like it just happens. Nothing causes it. It just kind of I find myself in the fun.
It seems random.
Yeah, it happens. It's just every once in a while I'll get there. I'll get low. And I think there were times that I think it's happened for a lot of my life, and I've just never been cognizant of it. So I would treat it in very unhealthy ways.
You would medicate it.
Oh yeah, alcohol, food, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And now that it's the old Mr. Rogers line, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. So I see a professional about it. I talk it through, and I don't let myself I don't go back to those unhealthy habits as much because I know what I'm dealing with and I'm okay with it.
God, that's so insightful. There's so many things I want to ask you about. I guess the first one that comes to my mind is, can you identify any triggers to this depression stuff, or does it seem random?
It's mostly random, but
you mentioned like some travel, or I don't know if change to routines, or
honestly, I don't know. Yeah,
holidays or seasonal, or
Yeah, or sometimes dating someone, getting dumped, that kind of thing, having things not work out can kind of exacerbate it.
That's a trigger for sure.
Yeah, some of those things. But I think the different personal relationships. I think one thing that really got me was events in the world. Like I went to Las Vegas, and this is when I noticed that it was a really dark cloud over me when I came back from Vegas, and it was because we were in Las Vegas for the Tableau conference in the Mandalay Bay a week after that massive shooting.
Oh.
So it was just this horrible pall over the whole conference, and it was a kind of a struggle to get through.
So you felt that kind of that energy on the outside.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
it was it happened a week before, and I remember the morning it happened, I was getting frantic text messages from my sisters because they thought that my dad and I were in Vegas for that weekend, not the it ended up being the following. But
That's scary, man.
yeah, and it's not really the scary part. It was just like just the overall like sadness of of how things are right now, and it was just kind of that piling up with that time of year tends to happen. The days get shorter. You get less daylight. That affects me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You're in Seattle, right? Most
oh
of the
yeah,
time. Seasonal
yeah,
affective is a real thing. Seasonal affective disorder. You just get a
yeah,
little gloomy in the winter.
yeah. And that was, and I decided to kind of use that after I got back from my sister's place and for Christmas, and I came back and I caught a bug from one of my nephews because they're all walking petri dishes, and I just had this nasty flu over New Year's, so I just couldn't
Yeah.
go out. I just stayed home, and I was like, what, screw it. This is going to be my fulcrum point. It's not a New Year's resolution because I hate those. Those are
Yeah.
just BS. But it's just like, no, this is a changing the season. We're starting a new billing cycle at work. It's going to be, a new project, new everything.
Yeah.
And it's January in Seattle, so nobody goes out anyway. So I'm shutting it down. I'm going to focus on these things, and it's been a pretty intense focus of habit and routine. Like habits have turned into routines, and it's
Let me push pause for a second because, as
yeah,
usual, you say about 10 things that I want to ask more questions about. Um, when you get to this point, this one you said, well, we had a new billing cycle. It was near the new year, and you just decided you were going to kind of get back on the
yeah.
wagon. How does that happen? How do you get to this point where you're ready to, kind of focus on your habits and routine and that kind of stuff?
Um, I remember, like, the thought process it was always one of those, a typical procrastinator's delight. Like, I was always in a mode of, nah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm gonna get back on this. We'll find a good time. And
Yeah.
I was always looking for a solid chunk of time where I was going to be in one place for a few months. And this has been 3 months. I had a week
Some
down.
stability, not as much change or
Yeah,
travel.
yeah, anchor, basically to where I can strip everything out, all the other distractions out, and
Mm.
just focus, kind of like, strip it to the studs and rebuild from scratch.
Yeah,
And,
you keep mentioning focus a lot.
oh,
It sounds like that's, what
yeah,
you kind of
well,
put your attention on.
right. And so it was mostly to, to build routine to where it wasn't taking brain power or willpower to do something. It was I'm going to do this one thing every day. I'm not going to worry about checking off these other 19 things I should be doing. Let's put those to the side for now. We'll get to those. It's on the list. But we're just going to focus on, eliminating, takeout or whatever. And then we're going to
give me some more examples on how you focus on one thing at a time. Give me some examples of the one thing, like you said, eliminating takeout.
yeah. So you do that, and like for 1 week, it's just like, okay, all food that you eat is
So
going to come
you
from
go for about a week at a time on one thing.
yeah, yeah, just get 1 week down with that, and then it's okay. Now we're going to focus on. Honestly, it's silly stuff. Sometimes it's okay. We're gonna have the routine where you're doing the dishes every night, and everything is like locked down before you go to bed, and it's kind of a routine at the end of the day, where that is kind of a now I don't feel right if I don't get those things done, but I feel a lot better in the morning when all of it's I don't have to worry about it. Nothing's piling up on me anymore. But it's weird little tiny things, and then it builds into last few weeks it's been building up now every morning. I just got back a few hours ago. I do a 3.5 mile loop outside my house, and I'm trying to beat my time every time.
You're jogging,
walking, side. So yeah, it's like a 500 feet of elevation. I ain't there yet for running. I don't know if I ever will be, because what I have found is there are a lot of like buddies who walk this same trail, and if they see this running,
Please help!
I cause enough heart attacks. I'm walking in like an audio book, and I'm just picking up my hat, my coat, and it's like 8 in the morning, and I'm just walking at a pretty brisk pace, and I come up behind them, and I had one woman go, ah! And literally jump off the trail like into the woods. I was like, sorry.
Good morning.
I yelled for
on your left.
I know. They're not expecting
but
the boulder from India.
I like that you were passing her. Right? Better that way. You're passing the old ladies.
A stale fart could have passed this old lady, but yeah, you're right. It was I'm going. It's I'm building speed.
I really, we are creatures of habit. I so agree with your approach. Like my video today that's going to come out on the website is exactly about doing one thing at a time, because I went snowboarding this past weekend with my daughter, and I'm not very good. I'm a beginner. Everybody was giving me different advice, and I was overwhelmed, and it was not helping. It was too much.
Yeah.
And so all I could do was, like, for the whole half day, for the whole morning, I'm like, I'm going to do one thing. That's it. I'm going to focus on one thing. And when I just focus on one thing, I'm able to actually get better at one thing. I can't get better at everything. I can't get better at turning my shoulders and working on my edge and my balance and squatting. It just, it's too much. So I really like, and I think it's interesting, people talk about habits, 21 days, well, maybe it's longer than that, whatever. But it sounds like for you, what works is you can do something for about a week, especially if it's a good bite-sized, like reasonable thing.
Yeah.
You get it in there, you kind of build it in there. Then you can add something else. I like that. Ooh, I like that a lot.
And and one more thing that I found recently, which was like last week, I kind of caught some kind of bug, and so I couldn't get out. Speed bumps are a good test of whether or not a habit is taking hold. So if you throw a monkey wrench in there or something to say, okay, I couldn't go out for about a week, but about Tuesday, all of a sudden I'm feeling better. I'm like, I feel the need to go back out. And I'm like, okay, good. This is now a habit. Like I've tested it. It feels a lot better.
Habits are funny, man. They're funny. Like when you were describing putting away your dishes and you like feel better when you do it. Like I've got these habits that, like one of them for me is doing food prep at least once a week, where I get a bunch of chicken, fish, veggies, and brown rice or quinoa or sweet potatoes, and I make it all. And I've got food. I've got good, available, healthy food for like, it's about 5 days. I just have this itch if I haven't done it in a while, and then when I do it, it's so satisfying and calming, and it feels good. It's a little bit neurotic, but I think it's a good habit.
I'm pretty sure if you hooked me up to a machine and put me in front of a pile of laundry and had me pay off $50,000 worth of credit card debt, I would get the same chemical satisfaction from both things. Because it always feels like, it's done. I don't have to worry about it.
I love cleaning my room. This is a great interview. We're talking about such cool things like cleaning our room and doing laundry.
Yeah, it's.
But
like I said, it's it's in the details of a lot of this stuff. It's in that kind of fine grained, like, just to start, like, making your bed every morning is one of those things that just kind of sets that tone in your head of I'm not going to be I don't feel like a slob today. It kind of it sets a high bar for you.
It's really interesting. How to lose weight. Start by making your bed. But I think you're right I think you're so right. The great thing that I love about habits is it's autopilot. You just put it on autopilot. Once you build in that habit, it just goes. It just runs. And the cool thing about it, that you're seeing, that you've been able to see, you put these habits in and you start losing weight. You can't get it all at once. But once the habit starts going without as much effort. It's not as hard. Then you can kind of get more excited, be like, okay, I got this. This is going to keep going. I know I'm going to kind of keep, there may be some of these, but I'm going to keep, kind
yeah,
of heading down.
yeah.
Um,
And
it's
now it's like
exciting.
then you get to like the like some of the things like what I'm doing right now. I'm doing something a little experiment this week, which I don't know what you'll think of it, but it's um, so basically one of the way I kind of settled into my routine of eating had been, you'll call it intermittent fasting, but I wouldn't eat until about 1 o'clock. And it was just because of my daily schedule. I was like, that's when it felt natural to eat, so that's when I did. But I would stop eating by about 5 o'clock. Just that was just kind of that end of the routine. So,
You would
no
eat
more
for a
food.
4 hour window.
Yeah.
How many? So how's that working for you?
Oh, it's been working fantastic. It actually it's the easiest schedule for me. Like it just kind of it didn't take like a lot of work to get into that routine. Like I'm not sitting there looking at the clock. I was never much of like a breakfast person anyway.
Yeah,
Like forcing
yeah.
myself to do that. Like I remember starting out like trying to force myself into that window, and it I was like, yeah, I
That
feel like
didn't work.
I'm putting myself off kilter by doing that. So just kind of I waited for like the natural cue, and now I'm looking at this. I'm doing this for just this week, and it's actually going well, which is I'm only eating once a day at 5, and then
How
you know
much are
that
you? I guess my questions would be, how much are you
yeah
eating? What are you
yeah
eating?
it comes out to about 1,500 calories at a time, but it's
Wow, so you're pounding all of that at once. What does it look?
yeah 20 30. I mean, we're talking like a Caesar salad and some chicken breast and uh, it's not huge. Like I'm not pounding a pound and a half of steak down my throat. It's just uh, um, I just wait until I actually feel like I'm hungry. And leading up to that, it's only been for a couple of days. But leading up to that, it's just okay. If you think you're hungry, grab a glass of water and then wait 20 minutes and see.
Okay.
And sometimes I just go back to work and I'm not hungry. And then, but that's yeah. This is just a
So you're
one.
experimenting. Okay.
It's just a
Sounds like
one
it's
week.
going okay. You don't find like you're starving yourself or you're like really hungry for a lot of the day.
No, and I kind of wanted to see if that would start to catch up or not. But it's been fun.
Seems like it's okay. How do
Yeah.
you feel about the nutritional content and, like vitamins, minerals, well balanced diet, enough protein, etc.?
Yeah, I try to focus on getting it. I mean, at least a solid amount of leafy greens in with whatever I'm doing. Like that's kind of a must have. But other than that, it's just kind of the whatever is easy to make, whatever is easiest to just kind of keep up, and I don't find I'm getting like cravings for anything anymore. That's kind of gone away, but yeah, all that feels I it sounds absolutely insane to me when I say it out loud, but it actually it's not that hard. It works. It works for me. So
We'll see how it goes.
we will. I don't think this little experiment I'm doing is anything that's totally sustainable. But it's just one of those. I kind of wanted to get a little bit more. I wanted to pay attention to actual like body signals, like what is my body telling me, like when I need to eat and all that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll check in and kind of see your conclusions. Sounds like it's going okay so far.
So far, so good. But
You're not
yeah,
starving. You're paying attention to your body. You're still getting, you're not on a starvation diet calorie wise, kind of under 800, too low. So,
oh no, I wouldn't do that. No, I eat like a substantial meal, but it's just just one of them, and
interesting. Well, we'll see how it goes. There are a lot of benefits to intermittent fasting in
mhm,
terms of your metabolic profile and all that stuff. Even when you eat the same amount of calories, just
yeah,
um, you're an N of one experiment. So we'll see.
yeah, just trying to see how it works for me. But the one weird benefit that I found is it makes it a lot easier when I have to like go into the office or I'm in like long stretches of meetings. And people bring in like all sorts of crap, for to munch on. If I'm only eating at like, 1 and 5, I'm not really sweating that stuff. Like it just doesn't bother me.
Enables
It's
you
a
to
lot easier.
resist the junk at work better.
Yeah, like that need that you would sometimes get, like if you don't get breakfast before you go in, and then you're sitting in a meeting and everybody gets that, oh, I'm starving. I'm really not. I'm not actually hungry, and so it's like I can go a lot longer and focus more without having to break off and go grab something.
You certainly got willpower and discipline. I'll give you that.
So yeah,
Um,
it's not. I think it's for everybody. I think it's it's a this has a high difficulty rating. I will say, to get into. It's a hard routine to get into.
we'll see how
But
it
it's been
goes.
working in. So
Um, I'm curious, and I want to ask permission to talk about, you said you have a therapist and you've been talking about some of these depression slides. I'm curious, what kind of things you get into, insights you've had, what that's about. We talked a little bit about triggers and what are, healthier ways to deal with it, than medicating with alcohol or food like before.
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, there's not. I'm not going to get into much of the therapy, not for any reason other than there's not a whole lot else to tell that I haven't already said. Just because there aren't anything. There's nothing specific that I've gotten out of that other than identifying that that's what I was doing before, like identifying the actual action of I was self-medicating, not and then once you know that, it's just kind of it makes it a little bit easier to take a step back when you start to recognize that pattern happening.
Paying
You're
attention to yourself and seeing that going on.
Yeah, and part of it's admitting that that is what's going on. That's
Yeah.
I think that was the hardest part for me to admit, was that that's what was happening. You know, because people, we stigmatize it a lot. It's just like it feels like a admitting a giant weakness,
Yeah,
which
like
which is
what does
the
it
opposite.
mean to you if you admit that?
I'm sorry.
What does it mean if you admit that?
Well, I mean, do you mean what was the implication? Like,
Yeah,
what was
right.
the yeah? Like it made me feel like a weak person when I was admitting that, but then that kind of quickly went away. Like I didn't really feel that for long, because I was like, now I actually feel better now that I know that this is what it is,
And
and I actually feel.
and I would suggest that you actually probably are stronger to be able to come to grips with that reality
Yeah.
than say to yourself, "Oh, this is a weakness I don't have," and be in denial of it. So the irony is that you're
Well, yeah,
actually
because I'm
stronger the
taking
other way.
agency of it. It's like I'm actually acknowledging what it is, and I'm not, it's not something that I'm going to have a passive role in, to just say and blame a lot of things on this condition. It's something to acknowledge and work through. It's not something to just kind of ignore and hide and shy away from.
So
Um,
now you acknowledge it, you identify it, and instead of drinking or eating in a certain way, you just say, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to
yeah,
focus on my
yeah,
habits." Or
yeah, and usually it's whenever it helps you kind of figure out, okay, I feel like going out for a drink right now. Why? What's the is it because I'm bothered about something else, or and that helps. That's been the biggest key, is to not add kind of that like alcohol I keep referencing, but that is kind of my volatile variable. Like
Yeah.
it's when I'm in a bad state, I'm now way more consciously avoiding it.
Not adding that to the mix.
Right. Like, so, when, Notre Dame loses a close game or, the Saints lost to the Vikings in the playoffs, I specifically did not go out drinking. Nope. Get through this.
Notre Dame wasn't good enough this year. A national championship game, everybody has a slip now and again.
Yeah. But
okay, so where are you at now? Like, you said you're at 267. Sounds like you feel better. What does it look like from here? Like, do you have a goal? Are you shooting for 260 right now? How are you doing that? Where are you at?
yeah, that's the next phase. It's I'm kind of looking at it from more of a calendar at this point. Like, I'm looking ahead to what potential stumbling blocks are out there. Like, just,
Anticipation.
The controlled detonations that are coming up. I got my cousin's getting married this year, and I'm going to be going back to New Orleans a ton for another conference. And so I got like 4 trips coming up, and I know I'm going to be hanging out with family, partying, having some drinks, having some food. I'm not going to shy away from that.
That's okay.
I know. Like, the life is meant to be lived. It's not, But yeah, it's the time between now and like June. It's still going to be kind of slow. I'm going to be really busy with work, so that gives me a chance to just kind of focus on those 2 things. But then it's going to be, starting to add in the rest of throwing more speed bumps in my routines to adapt to what a normal life is more like, where I'm not just laser focused on this one thing.
Yeah.
Because, you can only do that for so long. That's also not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because, I am clearly I'm trying to accomplish in a relatively short period of time, more weight loss and see how far I can get in the next month or 2. And then.
Do you have a specific number goal or not really? You're more focusing on the habits?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I don't like to attach, because that
too much.
Well, that gets into like that success and failure thing, and then it can, because if I do, I would like to hit that 100-pound loss mark. That would be nice.
So like big picture goal would be something like 220.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range, which, and that's more of that's a number in my head that I feel where I am actually, living a much healthier, more active lifestyle that I want to live. Like that's the change I'm looking for.
Okay.
Just to kind of be in a body that allows me to do things that, I probably couldn't do at the moment.
To be more physically active, like that hike, for example.
Yeah, I could probably do that one now with you guys.
Nice.
But yeah. But yeah, but then,
so that's kind of a big picture goal. Yeah. You don't really go by 1 month goal, 2 month goal, something like that. Not really.
No, especially not like a number goal.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it'd be good. I'm anticipating that. Yeah, probably in the next couple of weeks. Like, I'm turning 37 next week. It'd be great to be around 260 by then. But that's.
So it's a little bit of a goal, but you're not going to attach too much to it to get derailed.
It's not going to be one of those, like, to put it in the back of your head of, if you don't hit it, you've screwed up.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. That's good to avoid that.
It's because, like I said, I was about this weight in August last year. And, after that slide, I was up about 287 around the first of the year. And I didn't feel good, like putting the 20 back on. I was like, this is bad. And this
step backwards,
like that backslide, it felt really, really bad. And I was like, but I can't let myself do that. And so let's just take it from now. And so 287 to 267 in less than 3 months, that feels really good. That's a really good start. So,
now let me just ask you. In terms of going forward, what's your basic plan? It sounds like you're doing this once a day, eating intermittent fasting thing, and then you're doing some walking every day. I forget how long you said you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, the walking that's just going to be for as long as I have access to the trails and all that kind of stuff. As long as I'm nearby, and I'll
How
find another.
and that's 30 minutes or something.
It's a little under an hour.
Oh, so you got about almost an
Yes,
hour of walking.
about 3.5, 4 miles.
Okay. Are
Um,
you were lifting weights before? Are you still doing
I
that?
was. Yeah, I backed off of that because I kept injuring myself. So
Okay.
I think that's one of those habits that I kind of pull back on, and I'm going to get back to. That's still on the list because I like doing it, but I have like equipment here in the house, and I was doing it kind of solo, and I'm like, nah, I should probably be in an actual gym with somebody like a trainer for a little while until I get the form right and all that.
That's smart.
Yeah, I've been working. I was working with an online trainer. Well, I still am, but because of the injuries and stuff, I pulled that out, and I'm basically just doing the walking and the focus on nutrition, and
Okay.
just letting
Good.
let letting that build, and then on top of that, when it's time to tackle that habit, I will build that one as well, and then
You'll do that
probably
one later. So it sounds like
because
you've got a plan, you've got kind of a direction and a destination. Let me ask you about this hero stuff for a minute because I think that's interesting. When you're doing this stuff, do you associate with any particular person in history or movie character or anything like that you find inspiration or motivation from?
not really. I mean, I haven't I haven't stopped to think about it in those terms.
Like for example, there's two for me that are particularly, and this both of them come out of my childhood. One is Rocky Balboa, and I still remember, Rocky Four when he's training in Russia and he's gonna fight Ivan Drago, the Russian, and he's just going through all these tough training and whatever. And there are times, I don't consciously think this, but kind of, I'm just like, if I'm working out or whatever, like I imagine, like, what would Rocky do? You know? And it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of gets into that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the yeah, I love those movies too. It's just I think I couldn't ever get into that mentality because it was I was I could never picture myself even in that, like, it was too much of a joke in my own head to even like say, oh, I'm like Rocky right now. Like it was
Oh,
maybe I'm
I
cynical,
bought,
but too much of a realist. It was just,
I,
but it was uh, like the hero villain thing. I was getting more of like I think I was going into a different kind of mythology with that, which is it was
yeah,
looked at like
tell me what you were thinking with that.
well, it was like it's like one of those hero anti-hero stories where you're actually facing off against the person. And actually, let's go back to Rocky, the Creed, when he's doing that one scene with Michael B. Jordan, and he points him in the mirror and says, "That's your biggest opponent, is the guy in the mirror." And
Hmm.
it always is, because it was the biggest obstacle for me was to actually figure out that I was doing this because I love myself, not because I want to look like you know you know Thor or like anything like that. It was because no, I want to do this because I owe it to myself, and it's I like me, and that was kind of the bigger I think psychological hurdle. I think when I finally start getting into weightlifting, I'll probably I'll probably pick Steve Rogers and picture what would Captain America do, but but until then it was I think a deeper process I was going through.
That's awesome. No, I think that's a great, it's so true in so many ways. Each one of us is often can be our biggest ally and friend and coach and inspiration and the biggest thing that holds us back.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Cool, man. Well, let's wrap it up. Thank you for this has been a great interview. I think you're doing very well. I'm proud of you. You've come a long way. I'm
Oh,
excited to excited to see where you go next. Excited to see how it
Yeah,
works out.
yeah, well, yeah. Let's get together next time I'm down in LA.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to say before we close out? Any other things you wanted to
I,
touch on?
I think whoever's watching us has heard my voice long enough. I think they've heard enough. But no, but thank you, man. Appreciate the words of encouragement there. That's nice.
All right, let me turn this thing off.